we are presenting a series of lectures on various important topics in history important for UPSC and BPSC exam on behalf of Mind IAS. As we know, in the last video, our topic was 1857. We discussed different historians' view regarding 1857. In this video, we will be discussing various factors which led to the revolt of 1857. Now, what are those factors? The causes are political, economic, socio-religious, administrative, military, and other factors. These are the different causes of 1857. Please keep in mind political, economic, socio-religious, administrative, military, and other factors. We will discuss these factors in details. First, the economic factors. Economic factors. Now, we can always say the advent of British in India led to the impoverishment of three kinds of people. First, the peasantry class. Secondly, the artisans or the handicraftsmen. And thirdly, traders or the mercantile class. So what are these? Led to the impoverishment, which means poverty, of peasantry class, artisans, and mercantile or the trader class. We will discuss how did it led to the impoverishment of these kinds of people. Now, in case of peasantry class, it caused poverty with the introduction of land revenue settlement system. Land revenue settlement system. Now, what is land revenue settlement system? We will discuss in brief what are those land revenue settlement system. In short, we are writing LRS, land revenue settlement system. Zamindari system, Ryotwari system, and Mahalwari system. Now, Zamindari system was introduced in the year 1793 by Lord Cornwallis. What are the other features of Zamindari system? Zamindars were made the permanent owners of land. They were made the permanent owners of the land. What are the other features? This system was very exploitative for the peasant class. So we can always say exploitative for peasants or small peasants. Now, what was the share of the British government in Zamindari system? It was 89% share of the total produce. 89% belonged to the East India Company, while 11% belonged to the Zamindars, who collected the land revenue. Clear? Now, where was the Zamindari system introduced? We can always denote this through a small map in India. Through a small map of India. The areas of Zamindari system are Bihar, Bengal, Odisha, UP, MP, Andhra. So these are the areas of Zamindari system. Please keep in mind. Moving on to Ryotwari system. Now, Rotwari system, what are the features of Rotwari system? It was introduced for the first time in Madras Presidency, present day Tamil Nadu. Who introduced Rotwari system? Introduced by Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro. While Thomas Munro was the governor of Madras from 1819 to 26. What are the other features of Rotwari system? Other features are, in Zamindari system, the zamindars were made the permanent owners of the land, but in this case the ownership lies with the riots. So now riots or the raiyat in Hindi were the owners of the land. They had the right to sell, transfer or lease the land. Clear? So this was the Rotwari system. We can always say less exploitative as compared to Zamindari system. Clear? Now we can always denote in India where was the Rotwari system first introduced. Parts of Madras Presidency, later also introduced in parts of Maharashtra, etc. Rotwari system. Now next comes Mahalwari system. Mahalwari system, it was introduced by Holt Mackenzie. Holt Mackenzie. Please remember the name. In the year 1822. 1822. Where was it introduced? Introduced in the northwestern parts of Bengal Presidency. Bengal Presidency. Now, what are those areas of northwestern parts of Bengal Presidency? In parts of Agra, in UP. Now, what are the features of Mahalwari system? We can say the features of Mahalwari system are, in this, one bigger unit was known as Mahal. One bigger unit known as Mahal. Here, the collector of the land revenue was the village headman. Who collected the land revenue? Village headman on behalf of the villagers. Later, Mahalwari system was also introduced in the Punjab. Later, introduced in Punjab. So we can always draw on India map areas of Mahalwari system. Northwestern parts of, this was the Bengal Presidency, parts of Mahalwari system, Punjab and Agra. In Agra, Mahalwari system was popularized by Lord William Bentinck. It was popularized by Lord William Bentinck. So these were some of the important land revenue settlement system introduced by the British: Zamindari, Rotwari and Mahalwari system. Now moving on to the next class of people which suffered at the hands of the British were the artisans. So what we are discussing? Impoverishment of artisans class. How did they become poor? Now, artisans were patronized by the rulers of the princely state. So they were patronized by princely state. Princely states. When British started conquering the territories of India, there was diminish or reduction of princely state. gradually artisans lost their patronage. So their impoverishment was as a result of loss of patronage. Loss of patronage by the rulers. Clear? Next, the third class of people which suffered at the hands of the British as part of economic factor of 1857 were the traders or the mercantile class. Now, we must all know that India still today as well as at that time was known as country of cottons. So, what did British do? British destroyed the economic fabric of the country. How? How did British destroy the economic fabric of the country? Flooded there is a popular statement, flooded the country of cottons with cotton. Country of cottons with cotton. How did they do, or how did they manage to do this? First, by imposition of high tariff rate on Indian made products or goods. So by imposition of high tariff rate on Indian made goods. Indian made goods. Conversely, what they did, they reduced the tariff rate on the British made or British manufactured products. So secondly, how reduction of tariff rates on British made goods. So these were the process followed by the, or we can say, systematic process by which British caused the pauperization of India. What we can say? They caused pauperization, which again means impoverishment of the country. Clear? Now let's discuss the political reasons for the revolt of 1857. Now what are those political factors? First, effective control. Secondly, subsidiary alliance. And thirdly, doctrine of lapse. We all have heard of these British policies for conquest in India. Now, what is effective control? Effective control can be termed as the broader or summation of all British policies to maintain de facto control over India. So, what it is? Summation of all British policies for what purpose? To maintain de facto control over India. Clear? Next comes doctrine of lapse. We might all have heard of policies, doctrine of lapse. So what is doctrine of lapse? What is doctrine of lapse? This was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. Now, who was Dalhousie? He was the Governor General of India from 1848 to 56. So, first, introduced by Lord Dalhousie, or we can write Dalhousie. Who was he? Governor General. Time from 1848 to 56. Now, this single policy of Lord is believed as to be the major factor which led to revolt of 1857. How? According to historian, under doctrine of lapse, Lord Dalhousie captured 1/4 of a million miles of Indian territory, or we can say 1/4 million miles of Indian territory. Now, what are the features of doctrine of lapse? The features of doctrine of lapse are, so under doctrine of lapse, it was mandatory for the Indian princely state who did not produce natural heir to take permission of British government before adopting a son. So what does it mean? To adopt a son, princely state has to take permission. Please remember that only those princely states who have not produced natural heir, Other features: the adopted son can inherit the private property of his father but not the state. So can inherit private property of father or foster father but not the state. For example, Damodar Rao, Gangadhar Rao and Rani Lakshmi Bai. These three people we know about. Rani Lakshmi Bai, Queen of Jhansi. Gangadhar Rao, King of Jhansi. Their son Damodar Rao. Now Damodar Rao can inherit the private property of Rani Lakshmi Bai as well as Gangadhar, but not the state of Jhansi. This was under doctrine of lapse. Clear? So this policy is considered as a reactionary policy by the princely state. Now, what are those princely states annexed by the British under doctrine of lapse? It is said 8 princely states were captured under doctrine of lapse. How many? 8. What are those? Those princely states are: first, Satara; second, Sambhalpur; next, Jaipur; next, Bhagat; next, Udaipur; next, Nagpur; next, Jhansi, and last, Awadh. Clear? So these were the 8 states annexed by British government on the pretext of doctrine of lapse, in India. Satara, year 1848. Sambhalpur 1849, Jaipur 1849, Bhagat 1850, Udaipur 1850, Nagpur 1854, Jhansi 1855, Awadh 1856. Clear? So these were the 8 states. Now we can denote these 8 annexed states under doctrine of lapse on Indian map. These are very important in history, particularly for history optional. Now, Sambhalpur in Odisha or Chhattisgarh border, Jaipur UP near Bundelkhand, Bhagat Himachal Pradesh, Satara Maharashtra, Udaipur we all know Rajasthan, Nagpur, again Maharashtra. Jhansi, we know UP Bundelkhand region. So these were the list of states which were annexed by the British under doctrine of lapse. Please keep in mind these important points regarding doctrine of lapse. Now, to add a bit of extra data, we have talked about doctrine of lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie when he was the Governor General of India from 1848 to 56. So let's take some list of policies introduced by Dalhousie while he was Governor General. What are those policies? For the first time, railway network or railway line or a train ran between Bombay to Thane. Bombay to Thane. Under whose governorship? Lord Dalhousie. 1853. What it is? Railway line. Another, Pegu, Lower Burma, was annexed and made part of British Indian Empire. Pegu or Lower Burma captured. Other, telegraph line for the first time was introduced in India. Telegraph line, introduction of telegraph line. Others, introduction of widow remarriage bill. Widow remarriage bill. Now this bill can also come under the socio-religious factor which led to the revolt of 1857. Please keep in mind, widow remarriage bill was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, but it was passed by the last Governor General of India, Lord Canning. Please keep in mind important data, passed by Lord Canning. Now, what were the another policies or data regarding Lord Dalhousie? Wood's dispatch came during his tenure. How is it important, Wood's dispatch? It is considered as the Magna Carta of education in India. Clear? So these were the broader, other than the doctrine of lapse, policies of Lord Dalhousie: widow remarriage bill, annexation of Pegu or Lower Burma, introduction of telegraph line or railway line between Bombay to Thane, and Wood's dispatch, which served as the Magna Carta of education in India. Clear? So this was doctrine of lapse. Now let's move on to the next political policies of British government, that was subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance. Now, what is subsidiary alliance? We can say subsidiary alliance is a policy through which the Indian princely state lost their sovereignty in India. So we can always say, in a basic layman term, a policy under which British or the princely state of India lost their sovereignty. Now, who introduced subsidiary alliance? Subsidiary alliance introduced by Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley. Who was Lord Wellesley? He was the Governor General from 1798 to 1805. Clear? What are the other features of the subsidiary alliance? Under subsidiary alliance, Indian princely state cannot possess their own army. So, cannot possess own army. Now, the British or the East India Company will protect the princely state or the rulers from internal as well as foreign invasion. Protect princely state from internal plus external invasion. What does princely state has to do in return for? The princely state has to pay for the maintenance of army. So what it has to do? Pay for maintenance. Pay for maintenance. Now, what are the other features? A permanent British diplomat must be placed in the princely state. So we can say other feature, posting of a British diplomat. Other features, what else we can say about subsidiary alliance? We can say under subsidiary alliance, the princely state became or functioned as a protectorate. Functioned as a protectorate. Now, another important feature of subsidiary alliance was the princely state was not allowed to have contact with foreigners like French, like Dutch, etc. So, no contact with foreigners like French. So these were the features of subsidiary alliance introduced by Wellesley, under which the princely state can have no army, will be protected internally or externally by the British Indian Army, or in return for the regular maintenance for the army, plus a permanent British diplomat must be posted, and the princely state functioned as a protectorate of the British, and also they should not maintain any contacts with foreigners like French, Dutch, etc. So these were the features of subsidiary alliance. Now, in the next part, we will discuss what were those states which came under the subsidiary alliance. See, here we must keep in mind, subsidiary alliance in a loose based form was first introduced by French governor Dupleix. So, subsidiary alliance in a loose form was introduced by French governor Dupleix. But subsidiary alliance in a proper policy framework was introduced by Lord Wellesley, which we are studying in 1798. But for the first time in India, in a loosely based form introduced by Dupleix. Now, you must also remember, Awadh became part of subsidiary alliance loose based form under Treaty of Allahabad. To be protected against Marathas. So Awadh came under subsidiary alliance after the Battle of Buxar under Treaty of Allahabad to be protected from the attack of Marathas. Who will protect them? Robert Clive will protect them, or British East India Company will protect them. Clear? Now, subsidiary alliance, when it was introduced in 1798, what are those states which were captured under this? First, Hyderabad. Secondly, Mysore. After the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, after the death of Tipu Sultan. Hyderabad year 1798, Mysore 1799. Next comes Tanjore. Next comes Awadh. Next comes Peshwa. Next, Sindhia. Next, Gaikwad. Now, these three are part of Maratha Confederacy or Maratha Pentarchy. Just will take what Marathas formed Pentarchy, which means rule of five. There are five Maratha families. One, Holkar. They ruled from Indore. Peshwa from Pune. Next, Sindhia from Gwalior. Next, Bhonsle from Nagpur. Last, Gaikwad from Baroda. So these were the five pentarchy of Marathas. We must remember Holkar of Indore, Peshwa of Pune, Gaikwad of Baroda, Bhonsle from Nagpur, Sindhia from Gwalior, and out of which they became part of subsidiary alliance. Gaikwad in 1803, Sindhia in 1803, Peshwa in 1802, Awadh in 1801, Tanjore in 1799. So these were the list of princely states which were captured under the subsidiary alliance, and this was the part of political policy which led to the revolt of 1857, which we must remember at all costs. We have discussed political as well as economic factors for the revolt of 1857. Next comes socio-religious factor. Now, what were the socio-religious factors which led to the revolt of 1857? First, passage of Religious Disabilities Act 1856. Now, what is Religious Disability Act 1856? Although this act was brought to promote equality, how did it promote equality? It allowed Hindus, Muslims as well as Sikh to occupy higher position in the government. But there was a catch. This act also allowed Hindus who have converted into Christianity that they can inherit their father's property. So this was against the religious nature of the Hindus. Second, advent of Christian missionaries in India. We all know Charter Act of 1813. Charter Act of 1813 allowed the advent of Christian missionaries in India to preach Christianity. They tried to convert people belonging to Hinduism, Islam or Sikhism to Christianity. Another factor, superiority complex among the British. We all know the Europeans or the Westerners considered India as a civilizing mission or white man's burden. So we must know civilizing mission or white man's burden. So they had a racial superiority complex against the Indians. The last factor, socio-religious reform. What are we discussing? We are discussing different factors which led to the revolt of 1857. Last factor, socio-religious reforms consist of abolition of sati system, passage of widow remarriage bill, as well as promotion of women education. Now, in sati system, we all know which Indian social reformer played an important part. Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now, who helped Raja Ram Mohan Roy in the abolition of sati system? British Governor General William Bentinck. When was sati system abolished? First time abolished in Bengal in 1829. in other presidencies of Madras and Bombay in 1830. Clear? Now, we have studied in the earlier video, widow remarriage bill was brought by Lord Dalhousie, although it was passed by Lord Canning. So we must all know widow remarriage bill brought under Dalhousie, passed under Lord Canning. Which Indian social reformer helped in the passage of widow remarriage bill? Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Please keep in mind Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. Now, last, women education. Promotion of women education was against the orthodox nature of the Indians. Now, in 1849, first Indian women's school was formed. What was the name of the school? Bethune School, which later became college. Who founded this school? Founded by J.E.D. Bethune. Now, in the earlier video, we have discussed that in 1854, under Lord Dalhousie, Wood's Dispatch was formed, which was considered as Magna Carta of India. So, we can say all these factors contributed in the revolt of 1857. Next factor is administrative factors. Now, what was the administrative reason for the revolt of 1857? We can say rampant corruption among East India Company officials. Now, in the earlier video, we have studied that one of the reasons for the Battle of Plassey was the misuse of trade privilege by the East India Company officials. That trade privilege was known as Dastak. Even after the enactment of Charter Act of 1793, 1813, 1833, as well as Regulating Act of 1773 and Pitt's India Act of 1784, corruption prevailed among the East India Company officials. First reason. Second administrative reason, when the British came to India, it provided an alien or a foreign look. The Indians could not associate themselves with the British. So these were the two administrative factors for the revolt of 1857. After discussing the administrative factor, let's discuss the military factor for the revolt of 1857. Now, what are the military factors? First, General Service Enlistment Act 1856. Now, who passed this act? It was passed by Lord Canning. It was passed by Lord Canning. Now, we must know he was the last Governor General as well as first Viceroy of India. Lord Canning, last Governor General and first Viceroy. Now, what does this act talks about? According to General Service Enlistment Act 1856, Indian soldiers serving in Bengal army has to serve any parts of the world. Now, according to Hindus, crossing the sea means loss of caste. So, they were unhappy with the passage of this act. Secondly, Bhatta system. Now, soldiers of Bengal army, they were paid extra foreign service allowance. Where? For serving in Punjab, for serving in Sindh. It was stopped. This also caused resentment among the members of Bengal army. Third, as we know, Charter Act of 1813 allowed the Christian missionaries to come and preach or convert Christianity in India. So they started conversion activities among the Bengal army soldiers. This also caused resentment. Next factor comes the annexation of Awadh. Now, what does this contains? We know that under doctrine of lapse passed by Lord Dalhousie, 8 Indian states were annexed. In year 1856, Awadh was annexed. Most of the soldiers of Bengal army belonged to the Awadh. So this caused resentment among the soldiers. We can also talk about the soldiers as they were peasants in uniform. They were nothing but peasants in uniform. Earlier they were agriculturalists, now they are serving as soldiers in Bengal army. The last factor or military factor is mutiny in the army. Now, there were several mutiny in the army before final mutiny of 1857. Those were Vellore mutiny of 1806 and Barakpur mutiny of 1825. We also know that before the revolt of 1857, led by the members of 3rd Native Cavalry, some mutiny took place like by 19th Native Infantry, 34th Native Infantry, of which Mangal Pandey was part, and also 7th Awadh Regiment. So these were the different military factors which led to the revolt of 1857. Our last factors are the events in which British has fought wars with different actors. What are those wars? Anglo-Afghan War, Anglo-Sikh War and Crimean War. Now first Anglo-Afghan War was fought in the year between 1838 to 1842. This war was fought by then Governor General Lord Auckland. Please note, this is very important for exam. Now Lord Auckland, he followed a forward policy. Name of the policy was forward policy. Later, after the failure of British or defeat of British in Anglo-Afghan War, Lord Auckland was replaced by Lord Ellenborough. Lord Ellenborough. Next comes the Anglo-Sikh War. And what is the time period for Anglo-Sikh War? It was between 1845 to 49. Next comes the Crimean War. Now Crimean War time period is between 1854 to 56. Against whom this war was fought? It was fought on Britain, France, Turkey, Sardinia on one side against Russia. This war resulted in heavy losses for the British. Now, all these wars led the realization that British can be defeated. East India Company can be overthrown from India, ultimately led to the revolt of 1857. So we have discussed all the factors which led to the revolt of 1857, namely political, economic, socio-religious, administrative, military and other factors.